You asked Scott about, just real quick, you asked him about what the Republican plan is, and he couldn't answer. There's no plan.
I literally said
and the
free
thing
market,
about Donald Trump
choices,
is he's
lower
not,
costs.
he's not, the thing about Donald Trump is he's not an outsider anymore. He's been in government a very long period of time. And then to your point about the SNAP's benefit, about Democrats being the party of humility.
Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. I'm Bran. I just came across this clip today, and trust me, it immediately pulled me in. It's one of those fiery debates where someone walks in confidently with a talking point, only to have it completely fall apart the moment they're confronted with basic reality. In this case, Clyburn steps in and absolutely dismantles a MAGA panelist's argument about government shutdowns and SNAP funding. The speed at which their logic unravels is honestly something you have to see for yourself. It's one of those moments where the facts land so cleanly that the entire conversation shifts in an instant. And listen, you're going to want to stick around all the way to the end because it escalates quickly. These exchanges really show the gap between people who understand how government funding and authority actually work versus people who are just repeating political lines without context. Before we dive deeper into the clip, let me know where you're watching from. I love seeing this community check in from all over the world and bring different perspectives into the conversation. All right, let's get into the video, because this debate gets wild fast.
What is the plan that Republicans are putting forward? Because you do hear over and over and over again that Obamacare is terrible. You hear it every single time from Republicans. This is a mess. Why do subsidies need to exist? But I have yet to hear a robust plan from Republicans.
Well, generally, they want more free market choices. They want people to feel like that their insurance actually is usable. Right now, premiums are really high. Deductibles are really high. I mean, I don't know about you all, but I know tons of people who have insurance that would tell you, it doesn't even feel like I have insurance at all. I pay. Look, I have a small business back in Kentucky. Every year I get a letter from the people that we get our insurance from. Your premiums that you pay for your employees are going up, 10, 15, 20%. I can tell you this, the insurance benefits never get better, and the employees that I have would tell you it doesn't ever feel like they're, any better off because of it. We pay more, but the health outcomes and the insurance benefits that they get aren't any better. In fact, sometimes they're worse. And so it just feels broken, and it feels like you don't really have any choices. To me,
but you don't have choices because Republicans have not shown a robust plan. I hear the diagnosis of the problems, but where is the legislation, the full legislation that you can say, hey, we're going to replace this. This is our plan. Obamacare is over here. We don't want this.
I'm not sure Republicans are going to be for a government-run or government-mandated system. What they're going to be for is free market choices, giving people more choices that would probably drive down costs and put them in more direct touch with their own health care. Right now, they're in touch with insurance companies, which don't do anything.
But you know what, Scott, there's a lot of things in Obamacare, there's a lot of things in the ACA that Americans like, whether they are Republicans or Democrats or anything in between. The idea that you can't get kicked out of health care because of a pre-existing condition, the idea that there's no caps, all of these things are things that we've all benefited from, particularly the neediest amongst us. Look, I think this issue is not going to go away. And we're going to be talking about this because we're going to hear horrible stories. Mm-hmm. People are not going to be able to afford their insurance. I don't think even with subsidies, they're going to be able to afford the premiums that are hiking up 100, 200, 300%.
Wasn't Obamacare supposed to fix that?
When people, not without the universal, I mean, there's
Affordable Care Act.
Yeah,
affordable was the first word.
The Republicans have been chipping away at the ACA, and I think this is going to be the death of the ACA, but it's also going to be the death of some Americans who don't go get screenings, who don't get diagnosed early enough in order to get treatment, who go in and instead of being stage 1 cancer are going to be stage 4 cancer. And we're going to hear horrible stories because Americans are going to choose to drop health insurance that they cannot afford. And we as a country have got to figure this issue.
I agree with what Ana Navarro highlighted here because she clearly explained a real and serious issue. Many people delay going to the doctor, skip screenings they can't afford, and end up facing much more advanced health problems by the time they finally seek care. Her point is simple. Costs matter, and when healthcare becomes unaffordable, the consequences can be severe. But beyond that, the discussion in this clip raises an important question that Ana tried to get a straightforward answer to. Where is the detailed Republican healthcare plan? She asked directly and repeatedly, and the response she received was essentially more free market choices and more options. Those are broad concepts, not detailed proposals. It's like asking what's for dinner and being told food options. It doesn't explain the actual plan. Scott talked at length about rising premiums, increasing deductibles, and how many employees feel like their insurance doesn't give them meaningful protection. Those are valid concerns. But when asked what the specific alternative would be, the answer remained vague. Before the ACA, the healthcare market allowed practices like dropping coverage for pre-existing conditions or capping lifetime benefits, and regulation was what limited those issues. Anna pointed out that many aspects of the ACA, including protections for pre-existing conditions and the removal of lifetime caps, are popular across the political spectrum. She also emphasized that the challenges with rising costs aren't hypothetical. If premiums continue increasing, many people may drop their insurance altogether, skip preventive care, or delay treatment until health issues have worsened. These are real risks observed before, and they could happen again without solutions addressing affordability and access. What made the exchange notable is that Scott acknowledged the ACA has problems, such as high costs, but instead of proposing specific fixes, the alternative presented was largely conceptual. Anna's persistence in asking for concrete legislation underscored the need for clarity on what the replacement for the current system would actually look like. Without that, conversations remained focused on diagnosing problems rather than outlining actionable solutions.
You asked Scott about, just real quick, you asked him about what the Republican plan is, and he couldn't answer. There's no plan.
I literally said
and the
free
thing
market,
about Donald
more
Trump is
choices,
he's
lower
not,
costs.
he's just,
That's a
the thing
concept.
about Donald
In touch
Trump
with
is he's not an
doctors, not
outsider
insurance
anymore.
companies.
He's
They're
been in
still
government a very
savings
long period
accounts.
of time. And then to your point about the SNAP's benefit, about Democrats being the party of humility, a government shutdown is an ugly business. Two wrongs don't make a right. Donald Trump was the one that refused that the rainy day fund that SNAP had
No, Democrats
be
refused
let
to
out.
open the government.
No, they refused.
They refused to
there was a
open the
rainy day
government.
fund in place for that very reason of a possible government shutdown. Two courts ruled against it. He has to do it. He still may not comply. Who knows? So don't say that's a Republican talking
Democrats
point. But
voted
back
to
to the
keep the
healthcare,
government shut down.
Obamacare, there's issues with it, but if you break it, you bought it. We can fix it within the system, or we can do something else. Your point about making it privatized, there's a lot of private healthcare insurance out there. None of it is affordable.
But
And if you think of getting rid of an
you've
affordable
been
option
in
would make
Congress
it
and you
more
have
so.
seen vote after vote after vote to repeal Obamacare. And the
About
question is to
75.
replace it with what?
Nothing, a concept.
Correct.
We're still hearing it. When two courts said to Trump, feed these children, he has appealed that.
Why can't those
Why
two
won't he
judges?
feed the children?
Why won't Democrats feed the children? Why don't we have? Hold on. Why don't we have two judges say to Democrats, "You must vote to open the government because kids are hungry"?
Wait, but here's the
What
thing.
two
Do two
judges?
unelected judges have that authority?
Just
I don't
answer
think
the
so.
question. You can
Why?
answer the question with your question all you want to, but the fact of the matter is,
An unelected judge probably does not have the authority to
believe-
tell the executive
Well,
branch
there are
what to
three
do.
different branches
Well,
of
they
government.
this
did.
is my
They
question.
can and they
Those are
did.
supposed to be
And
called
SNAPs
judge,
The Supreme
work
Court.
without.
do you believe as a member of Congress, a judge can compel the executive to spend money that you haven't appropriated?
yes,
Scott's reaction in this exchange seems unusually surprised, as if he heard something unexpected. The question being discussed was whether judges have the authority to compel the executive branch to act, specifically in situations involving court rulings on SNAP benefits. The response given, "Yes, I do," appears to have caught Scott off guard, even though two courts had already issued orders instructing the executive branch to restore those benefits. Judges routinely interpret the law and issue directives when they determine that legal obligations aren't being met. This isn't unusual. It's a normal part of how the judicial system functions. Court orders are designed to clarify what the law requires, and the expectation is that the executive branch complies unless a higher court overturns the ruling. Scott's reaction seems connected to the broader discussion he was making earlier, where he questioned whether unelected judges should exert authority over the executive. That argument becomes more complicated when considering that refusing to comply with judicial rulings would imply that executive actions are exempt from legal oversight, an idea that conflicts with the principle of checks and balances. The moment highlights a tension in the conversation. On one hand, acknowledging judicial authority is fundamental to the system of government. On the other hand, challenging that authority raises questions about how far executive discretion can go. Scott's visible surprise appears to reflect that tension, revealing the difficulty of arguing against judicial authority while also recognizing its established role.
yes, I do.
Really?
Yeah.
I thought we didn't want kings.
Nobody
Maybe we
wants
need
king.
king for a day. What do we need?
Okay, but wait.
that is literally a king, spending money that is not
The
appropriated.
judge is not a king. The
No, you're
judge-
turning the president into one if he
don't
can
know.
spend without appropriation.
Well, now, if you got a rainy day fund, it was appropriated at
Correct.
one time. The fund didn't come out of the air. The money is sitting there. Now, they didn't appropriate it yesterday or the day before, but the money was appropriated last year sometime, and the rainy day fund was there for this purpose.
Who
And rather than
appropriated
use
the,
it
who
to
appropriated, who
use
appropriated
to
the $40
find
billion
two
for
courts.
Argentina?
My view is, as a look, you guys have been railing against Trump being authoritarian, having too much power, too much executive power. And at the same time, Democrats have been arguing that he should go out and spend money that has not been appropriated
The
this
money
year
was appropriated.
by
It's
Congress. I
$3
just-
billion
Where did the money
that's
come
in a
from?
rainy day fund.
Where did the rainy day fund come from?
Was it specifically for this purpose?
Yes, correct.
I
It was
don't know.
three. It was three. I know for a fact it was $3 billion that's appropriated through snaps, specifically for either disaster relief situations or government shutdown. Trump said he didn't want to spend the money. People are going hungry because of it.
Because
And we should
Democrats
be-
voted to keep the
but
government
we should
closed.
be clear that the shutdown that happened before this was the second longest. It was during the Trump administration, and guess what? SNAP was funded. So this one is different.
It's worth taking a closer look at what unfolded in those last few moments, because the conversation shifted quickly and raised some interesting contradictions. The argument being made was that one side was responsible for people missing SNAP benefits during the shutdown. But almost immediately, it was pointed out that during the previous shutdown, which was actually the second longest in U.S. history, SNAP benefits were distributed without issue. That naturally raises an important question. If the system functioned then, under even more pressure, why didn't it function now? This becomes especially relevant once the rainy day fund enters the discussion. The fund was described as something Congress had already appropriated specifically for disasters or government shutdowns. If that's true, then the money wasn't theoretical. It was already in place for exactly this purpose. That makes the claim of executive overreach less clear, because using funding that Congress has already approved isn't the same as spending outside legal authority. There was also a noticeable shift when the conversation moved from questioning where the fund came from to acknowledging that it was established for this exact scenario. That admission weakens the earlier suggestion that accessing it would somehow exceed proper limits. If the money's already earmarked for emergencies and shutdowns, using it isn't an overstep. It's following the original intent behind the appropriation. The comparison to the previous shutdown underscores this further. If the same mechanism worked before and the fund still exists, the obvious question becomes, what actually changed? That point never got fully addressed, leaving a gap between the explanation and the conclusion. All of this created a moment where competing arguments collided. Concerns about authority, questions about appropriations, and references to past situations. When those pieces don't align, it becomes harder to draw a consistent interpretation of what went wrong. And that's what made the exchange so striking. The details being discussed didn't fully support the conclusions being pushed, leaving the conversation unresolved. What do you think about this? Drop your thoughts down in the comments. I always love hearing different perspectives. And if you're enjoying the content, don't forget to hit the like button and subscribe to the channel.